Well, most of you are probably familiar with the song, The 12 Days of Christmas, right? Well, this year, when I went to read a Christmas book to the boys, I found this one on the shelf that I'd never read before. It was actually given to my wife Heather when she was 9 years old by her mother. It's called The 12 Cats of Christmas. It was written by an author named Candy Radzinski, and I'd like to start off by singing this to you. And actually, I would invite you to join me on certain parts, if you feel comfortable doing it, and even if you don't feel comfortable doing it. But I'm gonna sing the 12 Cats of Christmas, and there are two lines I'd like you to sing with me, and I'll signal you when it's your turn. All right, are you ready? You ready for this? Now, I've been sick. I'm a singer, but I've been sick, so give me some grace this morning. On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a white cat with a red bow. So that's one of your lines, a white cat with a red bow, okay? All right. On the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me two cats asleep and a white cat with a red bow. Good job. On the third day of Christmas, my true love gave to me three climbing cats, two cats asleep, and a white cat with a red bow. On the fourth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me four Siamese, three climbing cats, two cats asleep, and a white cat with a red bow. The dog people are cringing. On the fifth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me five golden cats. I started way too high. But that's your line. That's your other line. Five golden cats. Four Siamese, three climbing cats, two cats asleep, and a white cat with a red bow. So five golden cats, white cat with a red bow. Those are your lines. Are you ready? On the sixth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me six cats a-playing, five golden cats, four Siamese, three climbing cats, two cats asleep, and a white cat with a red bow. On the seventh day of Christmas, my true love gave to me seven cats a-gazing, six cats a-playing, five golden cats, four Siamese, three climbing cats, two cats asleep, and a white cat with a red bow. On the eighth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me eight cats a-lapping, seven cats a-gazing, six cats a-playing, five golden cats, four Siamese, three climbing cats, two cats asleep, and a white cat with a red bow. Almost to the end, guys. Hang in there. On the ninth day of Christmas, my true love gave to me nine cats a-hiding, eight cats a-lapping, seven cats a-gazing, six cats a-playing, five golden cats, four Siamese, three climbing cats, two cats asleep, and a white cat with a red bow. On the 10th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 10 cats a-hunting, 9 cats a-hiding, 8 cats a-lapping, 7 cats a-gazing, 6 cats a-playing, 5 golden cats, 4 Siamese, 3 climbing cats, 2 cats asleep, and a white cat with a red bow. I'm going to lose my voice before the song's over. On the 11th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 11 cats a-racing, 10 cats a-hunting, 9 cats a-hiding, 8 cats a-lapping, 7 cats a-gazing, 6 cats a-playing, 5 golden cats, 4 Siamese, 3 climbing cats, 2 cats asleep, and a white cat with a red bow. Okay, last verse, pray for me. On the 12th day of Christmas, my true love gave to me 12 cats a-leaping, 11 cats a-racing, 10 cats a-hunting, 9 cats a-hiding, 8 cats a-lapping, 7 cats a-gazing, 6 cats a-playing, 5 golden cats, 4 Siamese, 3 climbing cats, 2 cats asleep. Give yourselves a hand. Well, I did the math. That ends up being 78 cats. Now, we bakers are a cat-loving household, but that is way too many cats. Of course, the person who received the gifts in the original 12 Days of Christmas probably didn't fare well either. I think there was a joke about that on the show The Office. During the first 7 days, the beloved receives 23 birds. I don't know which is worse, 23 birds or 78 cats. But here's a question for you. What exactly are the 12 days of Christmas besides the subject of a song? What are the 12 days of Christmas? Any thought? Somebody said it. 12 days after Christmas. It's actually, you see, Christmas is actually not, in the old church calendar, Christmas is actually not just one day. It's actually a season consisting of 12 days. It starts on December 25th and it ends on January 6th. And January 6th is a day called Epiphany. Now, the word Epiphany means appearance, and it carries the idea of something suddenly and dramatically showing up. Epiphany, the day of Epiphany, is also called Three Kings Day. And that's because it's most commonly associated with the arrival of the wise men to see Jesus. Now, most scholars and historians agree that the wise men actually probably arrived sometime after Jesus was born. So it makes sense that day of Epiphany on January 6th would mark the coming of the wise men. You might think of it like this, though. Christmas Day marks Jesus' appearance to God's people, the Jews, and they're represented by Mary, Joseph, and the shepherds. Now, Epiphany, at the end of the 12 days of Christmas, represents Jesus' appearance to the other peoples of the world, represented by these wise men from the east. Well, Christmas was this past Monday. Epiphany happens to be next Sunday. So here we are in between those two special days on what one pastor has called National Associate Pastors Sunday. You see, on this Sunday, pastors of larger churches who have associate pastors usually take a break and let the associate pastor preach. Now, I don't have an associate pastor, so you're stuck with me. Of course, I was an associate pastor at my last church, and I think this Sunday I preached every year, so the streak continues. Today is a hard Sunday to preach on, though, but I think it's a good time to talk about the things that happened between the famous Christmas story and the beginning of Jesus' adulthood ministry. This morning, I'd like to take a look at the only event from Jesus' childhood that is recorded in the Bible. Let's take a look. Every year, Jesus' parents went to Jerusalem for the festival of the Passover. When he was 12 years old, they went up to the festival according to the custom. After the festival was over, while his parents were returning home, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but they were unaware of it. Thinking he was in their company, they traveled on for a day. Then they began looking for him among their relatives and friends. When they did not find him, they went back to Jerusalem to look for him. After 3 days, they found him in the temple courts, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. Everyone who heard him was amazed at his understanding and his answers. When his parents saw him, they were astonished. His mother said to him, "Son, why have you treated us like this? Your father and I have been anxiously searching for you." "Why were you searching for me?" he asked. "Didn't you know I had to be in my father's house?" But they did not understand what he was saying to them. Now, there's a lot packed into this story from when Jesus was a child, and there's a message in it that's important for us today. When December 26th rolls around, we're pretty well done with Christmas, although I heard one person tonight say he's still got one Christmas left to celebrate. But the presents are usually opened, the meals have been eaten, the parties have been attended. It's all over. And once the new year starts, things pretty well go back to normal. We stop turning our attention to Jesus. We stop seeking him. Now, let's not be too hard on Mary and Joseph. I won't make you raise your hands, but how many of you have lost track of a child, even for a few seconds? I myself took Liam to the Children's Museum once by myself, and I lost track of him in a maze. I've never been more terrified in my life. Now, true, I only lost track of him for less than a minute, and Mary and Joseph lost track of Jesus for a whole day before they realized they'd left him behind. But keep in mind, they probably were traveling with a large caravan of friends, family, and neighbors. Not to mention the fact that Jesus is 12 years old. He's not 5. He's old enough to be responsible, especially in that time when he was just a few years away from being old enough to get married. We're not here to accuse Mary and Joseph of bad parenting, but they make a spiritual mistake that you and I often make this time of year. We stop looking for Jesus. And even when we do look for him, we tend to look for him in the wrong places. First of all, Mary and Joseph didn't even notice that Jesus had stayed behind. They assumed that he was in their company, that he was traveling with their caravan. Now, they assumed that he was where they wanted him to be. They assumed that he was where they expected him to be, or where they thought it was appropriate for him to be. And some of us make that same mistake, especially this time of year. You see, some of us want Jesus to stay put. Some of us want Jesus to stay in church where he belongs and let us live however we want to outside these walls. But Jesus presses up against those lines we draw. He doesn't want to just be part of our lives on Sundays or holidays. He wants to be part of our lives every minute of every day. Jesus wants us to have him in mind when we make all of our choices, especially those that have something to do with right and wrong. Now, Luke doesn't tell us where Mary and Joseph look when they finally get back to Jerusalem, but he does tell us that they searched for 3 whole days. For 3 days, Mary and Joseph looked for Jesus without success. Now, where do you suppose they might think to look around the city for a 12-year-old boy? Well, if one of us, God forbid, accidentally left one of our kids in Indianapolis, where would we start looking? Where are some of the places you'd start looking if you lost a 12-year-old in Indianapolis? The mall, okay. Might want to go do some shopping, right? Fast food, okay. What's that? Zoo, the city zoo, okay. All right, any other possible places you might look for a 12-year-old boy? Yeah. Paintball, okay. What do you think? In a park? Sure. Nobody's mentioned the police. I was thinking you probably would start by the last place you saw the child. Heather?
No, I did say the police.
You were going to say the police? Okay. But you guys are thinking along the right lines. You're talking about the things that a 12-year-old might be drawn to. The places you might expect to find a child. The mall, paintball, the zoo, all of those places. But let's take a look at where they really found him. They eventually found him in the temple courts. Now, keep in mind, the temple didn't exactly correspond to a church. It was a large complex, and most of the places lay people were allowed in were outdoors. It was a big community center more than just a place of worship. It would have been the center of the Jewish community in Jerusalem. It would have been full of worshipers. It would have been full of merchants selling things to make a living. It would have, except for the middle of the temple, the outer courts would have been more like the mall in nature, in terms of how it fit in the community. Now, my guess is that Mary and Joseph probably checked the temple courts more than once before they found Jesus. They might have expected to find him browsing the shops or playing with other kids. Maybe one of their darker thoughts would be finding him working as a slave or worse. But where did they find him? They found him sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. Of all the places you would expect to find a 12-year-old boy, that would be like losing your 12-year-old in Indianapolis and finding him chatting it up with the philosophy professors at UND or IUPUI. And not only chatting them up, but actually carrying on a meaningful conversation with them. How many of you would have expected that from a 12-year-old? Luke reports that everyone who heard him was amazed at his understanding and his answers. Rabbis, religious teachers in Jesus' time usually taught by asking questions of their students, responding to questions with questions. And Jesus was impressing them with his responses. The responses that Jesus was giving demonstrated remarkable understanding of the things of God. But that's not where you and I might expect to find a 12-year-old boy, not even in Jesus' day. And when Mary and Joseph understandably demand an explanation, Jesus says, "Why were you searching for me? Didn't you know I had to be in my Father's house?" Literally, Jesus says, "Didn't you know I had to be in those things that are of my Father?" So I think the better translation is, "Didn't you know I had to be about my Father's business? Didn't you know that I would be managing my Father's affairs? Didn't you know that I would be out wherever my work for my Father takes me?" You see, wherever Jesus is wherever the work of God is being done. And often the work of God happens in the most unexpected of ways, at the most unexpected of times, and in the most unexpected of places. Now, yes, in this case, the work of God happens in the temple, the holiest place in the ancient Jewish faith. But think of all the other places that Jesus' work for his Father took him. Besides obvious places like the temple or a synagogue, Jesus did his Father's work by wells, in marketplaces, on hillsides, on lakes, in graveyards, in fields, and in people's homes, including the homes of the poor and those with bad reputations. Today, we would expect to find the work of God being done in this building, or in the food pantry or the mission store, and God's work is most certainly done there. But Jesus did most of his Father's work in ordinary and unexpected places. God's work can be done in your workplace or at your school, going about your work with integrity, relating to your supervisor, teacher, coworkers, or classmates with respect, even when they're jerks. Looking out for customers more than your bottom line, earning an education for more than just a good grade, being an example of the character of Jesus, and being unashamed of your faith, that is the work of God. And it can be done in the most unexpected of places. God's work can be done in your community, treating your neighbors with respect, even those with whom you disagree, even those you don't understand, even those you don't particularly like. That is the work of God. Working for the good of all and being a beacon of the unconditional, self-sacrificing love of Jesus Christ to the world, that is the work of God. The work of God was done on Christmas Day in people's homes and on the roadsides and in our IGA fellowship hall as people were making and delivering meals to people in their homes, to people who came by. That was the work of God being done. And I tell you, God's work can most certainly be done in your family. Now, I know not everyone has the same family situation, so this looks different to different people. Those of you who are married, doing the work of God means treating your spouse with dignity as an equal partner, bearing both the dignity of the image of God and the limitations of being a fallen son of Adam or daughter of Adam. Do whatever you can to build each other up, including in your spiritual lives. Those of you who have children recognize that your children are people. They are not property or accessories, but people with feelings, thoughts, hopes, and aspirations. And they are watching you to learn what is and is not acceptable behavior. We who are parents need to take that responsibility seriously, especially when it comes to our own spiritual lives. And kids, because I know we have some in here, respect your parents and your grandparents. Doing the work of God means showing respect to your parents and your grandparents. And I know that you hear that a lot, but here's why. They're doing their best to make sure you don't grow up to be a jerk. That's what they're trying to do. And that's not easy to do. They want what's best for you. And while they would love to give you everything you want, they know that if you did get everything you wanted, it'd make you a lousy person in the end. And it's their job to make sure you don't grow up to be a jerk. Obeying your parents, respecting them, is doing the work of God. Teenagers and 20-somethings, on top of what I just said to the younger kids, I say this to you. You're becoming adults. Now, don't be afraid of having original thoughts. That's part of becoming an adult. But keep in mind that the more independent you are from your parents, the more responsibility you bear for the things that happen in your life. You need to respect and acknowledge the role that your parents continue to play in your life, even as you're becoming more independent. You need to learn to respect them even as you're becoming your own person. And that is the work of God. You see what I mean? The work of God can be done in so many unexpected places, at so many unexpected times, and in so many unexpected ways. Wherever the work of God is being done, wherever the work of God can be done, that is where Jesus is. And that's where we need to look for him. And that's where we need to follow him.